And let's begin with judicial matters. A chief magistrate in Ibadan, Olabisi Ogunkomi, has ordered the remand of Prophetess Naomi Silekunola, the former wife of the Ooni of Ife, Oriyomi Hamzat, the owner of Agidigbo FM, and Fasasi Abdulahi, the principal of Bashorun Islamic High School at the Agudi Correctional Facility. The remand is pending advice from the Director of Public Prosecutions at the Oyo State Ministry of Justice. The three individuals were arraigned on Tuesday before Chief Magistrate Court 1 Iyakanku, Ibadan, on a 4-count charge of conspiracy, culpable, homicide, negligence causing harm, and failure to provide adequate security and medical facilities. The court premises were tense as Hamzat's supporters gathered in large numbers. However, a heavy security presence ensured order was maintained. The Federal High Court in Abuja has directed the Nigerian police to either arraign Olamide Thomas within 48 hours or release her unconditionally, declaring her prolonged detention a violation of her fundamental rights. Justice Abdulahi Remand issued the ruling on Monday following a lawsuit filed by Thomas against the Inspector General of Police IGP Kayode Egbetokun. Thomas, a vocal advocate for civil liberties, claimed she was abducted by police in Lagos and transferred to Abuja under questionable circumstances. Thomas is also facing separate criminal charges over alleged comments made on social media, including accusations of threatening President Bola Tinubu's son, Chief Tinubu, and senior police officials. The human rights case will continue on January 6, 2025, while the criminal case is scheduled for December 30th. Away from that, human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi has been released from the Ado-Ekiti Custodial Center after several weeks in detention over alleged defamation. His arrest followed a petition by Afe Babalola San. Although he was granted bail earlier this month by both the Federal High Court and a magistrate's court in Ado-Ekiti, bureaucratic delays delayed his release. Now, the Federal High Court had set a bail of 50 million naira with strict conditions, while the Magistrates Court subsequently granted him bail of 30 million naira, subject to additional restrictions, including the surrendering of his passport and a ban on media interviews. Farotimi's release was finalized following the verification of his surety's documents. His trial on charges of cybercrime and defamation is scheduled to continue in January of 2025. In the meantime, the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee has dismissed a request by Afe Babalola's Sands law firm, Emmanuel Chambers, to revoke the practicing license of lawyer and author Dele Farotimi over alleged allegations of criminal defamation and professional misconduct. Now, Farotimi was summoned before the disciplinary committee following a petition filed by Ola Faro, a lawyer with Emmanuel Chambers. Now, the petition alleged that Farotimi, in his book, Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System, made defamatory statements against the Supreme Court and the legal profession. However, in its report, the LPDC, that's the disciplinary committee, concluded that the alleged offenses were committed by Farotimi in his capacity as an author, not as a practicing lawyer. And the committee ruled that it lacked jurisdiction to handle complaints relating to publications and advised aggrieved parties to seek redress in the regular courts. President Bola Tinubu has held his first presidential media chat where he reiterated his commitment to the tax reform bills, saying there would be no reversal. The reforms have sparked controversy, particularly from northern leaders who argue that the measures are designed to impoverish the region. Addressing these concerns during a presidential media chat in Lagos State, the president emphasized that the reforms are here to stay. He said the reforms are pro-poor and aim to expand the tax net, ensuring broader participation in revenue generation. The president also dismissed any possibility of reversing the removal of fuel subsidies or reducing the size of his cabinet. He also attributed the recent stampedes that have claimed nearly 70 lives during the festive season to poor crowd management by event organizers.
From organizers' point of view, are you looking at it from the goodwill gesture of the people trying to give out whatever they have accessed. And it is very sad that people are not well organized. We just have to be more disciplined in our society. Condolences to those who lost a family member. But it is good to give. I have been given out foodstuffs, commodities, and clothing envelopes and modular for the last 25 years.
And now to discuss this, we're joined by oil and gas analyst George Brown. George, thanks for joining us. I mean, let's just get started because we're pressed for time. The president, during his inaugural presidential media chat, dismissed any possibility of reversing the removal of fuel subsidies. Your thoughts? Let's begin there.
Okay, good evening and thanks for having me. We saw a president that was defiant, that was not guided and guarded in his remarks, and was literally speaking to Nigerians as though he was talking to his laborers, his employees. We are the employer. And he did not speak with us with decorum. He did not speak with Nigerians with respect and empathy that is required of a leader. He did not speak with Nigerians with temperate and kind words that are soothing to the feelings of what Nigerians are going through. The entire media chat was embroiled in comments, speeches, innuendos, and grandstanding. He was just literally speaking as though he has achieved so much. He has done so much. And in his words, he said it's like a pregnant woman that is heavy and she's approaching the point of a hard push. And the way he emphasized that very, very hard push simply means that we should brace up. He even used the word brace.
We seem to be having issues with George's connection there. We'll try to fix that. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with this discussion. Don't go anywhere. For many, 2024 could be described as a momentous one. And as the year draws to a close, Nigeria stands at a critical juncture, reflecting on progress made and challenges that stare the country in the face. News Central will be bringing you a series of reports on Nigeria's key sectors, from the economy to judiciary, healthcare, education, and even energy, among others, offering you an in-depth, insights and analysis of the major trends and achievements, as well as obstacles that have defined the year. Talking about economy, which amid global headwinds continue to demonstrate resilience and at the same time complexities that Nigerians hope will be resolved in the new year 2025 and even beyond. And so News Central's business team lead, Nasir Agbalaya, compiled this report taking a look at the realities in terms of economic, fiscal policies and access to capital in 2024. Take a look.
Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, has been grappling with economic challenges of late. Factors like rising inflation, currency devaluation, and security challenges continue to hinder the economy.
Raise the MPR by 25 basis points to 27.50% from 27.25%.
Our issue is not just about just trying to arrest inflation by hiking MPR, because beyond corruption, we also have a lot of mismanagement in the system. One thing is to be saving money, another thing is, on the other hand, wasting money in the name of mismanagement.
In terms of access to capital, the Central Bank of Nigeria has taken steps to improve liquidity in the financial system. The bank has kept the cash reserve ratio unchanged after its last MPC meeting of 2024 and the 9th for this year.
Primarily, it was largely driven by how much stability we are able to maintain in the exchange rate. That is what will be the key driver of inflationary pressure. That's what will attract foreign direct investment. That's what will attract foreign portfolio investment. That's what will create stability in the economy.
President Tinubu had promised 200 billion naira to support SMEs, which we have not been able to independently verify if disbursement has started. However, despite these efforts, access to capital remains a challenge for many businesses, particularly the small and medium-sized enterprises. The high interest rates and stringent collateral requirements from commercial banks have made it difficult for many businesses to access credit.
Very heavily impacted, very negatively impacted. This has shrink our businesses over time. We've not been able to do business as usual again because for one thing, lending has become very difficult. It's now very, very, very expensive to get funding from the banks, and even the banks are now advised to giving out money to the real sector.
Although many pledges have been made to Nigeria, sustainable growth is expected from the energy sector.
I think the thing to realize is that these things take time. So what we've seen is some of the IOCs have exited or are exiting, not exiting totally, but are exiting some of the assets they've held fully or partially, and they're handing over the operatorship of those assets to Nigerians. The expectation is that Nigerians will then work those assets and then get them, for the ones that are not producing optimally, get them producing and then potentially, attract new investments to then increase production. But it takes time.
The Nigerian Senate recently passed the tax reform bills for the second reading. It was forwarded to the lawmakers by President Bola Tinubu in October 2024. The passage followed a debate among lawmakers. This happened despite opposition from governors, lawmakers and traditional rulers from Nigeria's northern region.
I think it's a very, very good economic move. It streamlines tax collections. It allows folks to focus on the operational side, and it will allow this revenue service focus on the fiscal side. President, that we should increase derivation. The way it works in Nigeria is that when we get 100 naira, we share out 40 naira based on the principle of equality, then 30 naira goes in principle of population. Derivation is just 10% or 10 naira. What Mr. President is now saying is that it's going to increase the share from the federal to the state. So the state will get more money. But in return, he wants to increase the proportion of derivation from the current 10 to, I'm hearing him saying, about 60%. So the states get more money, but derivation percentage rises in the formula to calculate and share out the federal allocations, what we call FARC. So I think the governors or the North, in quotes, is basically worried that their current revenues is going to go down because it's going to be based on derivation and not on land mass and equality. I think
Nigeria's economy has been on a recovery path, recording a year-to-year gross domestic product growth rate of 3.46% in Q3 2024, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. This represents an improvement from 2.54% in the same period last year, and a slight increase from 3.19% in the previous quarter. But the big question remains: what is driving this growth, and what does it mean for access to capital and economic stability?
The good news is that the Bureau of Statistics is saying this is the growth of the economy in the third quarter. IMF is saying almost the same thing. So it's somehow good for us. That means it's either we exceed it based on our own MBS data, or we keep it at that based on the World Bank IMF data.
In conclusion, while Nigeria's economic growth has shown some positive signs in 2024, the country still faces significant challenges, including high inflation and limited access to capital. The government must continue to work to address these challenges and create a more favorable business environment.
And out of politics. Tensions are escalating within the All Progressives Congress as the Rivers State chapter criticizes the party's national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje. The state chapter's reinstated spokesperson, Darlington Onwauju, has accused Ganduje of adopting a dictatorial leadership style, claiming that he is deliberately undermining the party. Nwauju expressed concerns that Ganduje's actions could lead to the party's downfall before it is handed over to the FCT minister. The Rivers APC chapter has been embroiled in internal conflicts, and this latest development underscores the growing divisions within the party.
From the points we have thoughtfully formulated above, it will not be out of place for any journalist in this room today to confidently construct beautiful headlines that we pull by the nose, given the notorious fact that Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje, who happens to be the current national chairman of our political party, who promised internal democracy for the party on the 3rd day of August 2023, after his ratification by the National Executive Committee of our party, has managed the River State chapter exactly like a workman quarreling with his tools. We are worried that Alhaji Ganduje is doing everything possible to bully the very principles of progressivism upon which our party was founded, and to even imagine the peculiarity of the River State chapter of the party, where tons of human beings created by the Almighty God had their lives cut short for their membership of the APC.
Now, earlier we were having a discussion about the inaugural presidential media speech, chat, I beg your pardon, by President Bola Tinubu. And to give more reaction to this, we're joined earlier by oil and gas analyst George Brown, who joins us again. George, thank you so much for joining us back on. Your earlier thoughts regarding, the president's inaugural presidential media chat and him dismissing any possibility of reversing the removal of fuel subsidy.
Okay, like I said initially, the removal of the subsidy is a welcome development. However, we've overflogged this issue of putting the right things in place before embarking on that exercise because of the multiplier effects that it will come with. Of yesterday by the president clearly shows that the president lacks empathy, the president lacks tact, the president lacks diplomacy in speaking to Nigerians, in talking to Nigerians. The president was talking to Nigerians as though he was talking to his workers, not staff. Because if you have staff, if you have people that are properly employed, you will talk to them with empathy and respect. The president was disrespectful to Nigerians in his body language and his choice of words. He even blamed the organizers of those palliative giveaways that resulted in deaths. He blamed them. It's his regime. Isn't it under his watch and his administration that was responsible, or that is responsible for the hardships that Nigerians are facing? And public-spirited individuals have decided to come together to say, okay, let's provide some succor for citizens. And unfortunately, these things happen. It is because of his high-handedness, his lack of methodology and strategy in implementing his decisions. He calls them reforms. These are not just reforms. These are hardships. He is putting a heavy burden and a heavy task, like a taskmaster, on Nigerians. Now, imagine a president saying that I will not remove the subsidy and I have no regrets whatsoever. Yes, the subsidy ought to be removed, but it should have been removed in a phased manner. It should have been phased, because once energy prices are high, then it affects everything along the value chain. Everything along the value chain. Let the president that was talking about an energy mix comprising electric vehicles and CNG, let him start by embarking on that same word he used, management, by embarking on a management practice of turning the entire vehicles in the villa, including his own private presidential motorcade, They should all be running on CNG. Let him lead by example and let Nigerians follow suit.
No.
But he is not leading by example. He's talking as though he was still on the campaign trail, talking about what he has done and what he has achieved. For crying out loud, what has he achieved? He was talking about a 98% debt servicing that has reduced to 68, and he was talking about, I have done, I have done, I have done. Mr. Tinubu, you cannot do it.
George.
He cannot do it.
Right, George, let me just cut you there because I want to stay on course and just talk about some of the things that he also made mention of. And one of them was the tax reform bills. The president, he reiterated his commitment to that bill, saying that there would be no reversal despite, opposition, particularly from the north. Let's have your take on that as well.
Okay, to be fair to him, he said that the tax reform bill is because we have colonial tax framework for a modern day Nigeria. That's a fact for a given. However, he also mentioned, to be fair to him, that there will continue to be engagement and conversations and stakeholder interface to gain consensus in order for the tax bill to go through and become a tax act. However, he also mentioned that he is not going to back down. The president is a very heady man. I wish our president was younger. I wish he was younger. Or maybe if he was younger, he could have been more draconian. Because at this frail age of his, he is still this heady, then I wonder what he would have become if he was younger. But all the same, the president, and my takeaway from the media chat was a president that came out to tell Nigerians that he has done so much, and Nigerians should applaud him for all that he has done. And Nigerians should be grateful for what he has done. He's done Nigerians a lot of favor. So Nigerians should accept what he's doing. Nigerians should take it. And Nigerians should even brace up for very, very severe push. That's the way he put it. A very, very severe push at the point of a woman, a pregnant woman birthing a child. It means that it's not going to be easy for Nigerians, even going into the new year 2025.
And let's also, as we're talking about this, right, let's also take a look at, the changes in the fuel subsidy and tax regime and the influence in terms of investment decisions for international companies in Nigeria. We saw him take a number of flights this year when it comes to attracting investment. I also know there was a particular figure that they kept running with at the time. With all of these moves, how would it influence investment decisions for Nigeria, especially in the energy sector, come 2025?
Okay, let's look at the energy sector where we operate, right? SNEPCO, which is Shell Nigeria Exploration, wanted to embark on an expansion of their existing Bonga field, right? And they intend to invest about $5 billion in expanding that acreage. Of course, it will increase Nigeria's oil production, daily oil output. It will increase it, yes, and that will mean more revenues for Nigeria. But of course, Nigeria will still sell her produce from oil based on the quota allocated to OPEC member countries. And of course, the cost or the price of the product, the commodity in the international market. It's not like Nigeria is selling her oil based on spot market basis. It's based on what the OPEC cartel fixes as the price that Nigeria sells. However, those investments that are coming from Shell and SNEPCO and Total Energies, what percentage of those investments in terms of FDI are going to be domesticated? These are questions that should be asked. If Shell is putting down a $5 billion, what percentage of that $5 billion is going to be domiciled in Nigeria based on the Nigerian Content Development Board's procedures and requirements for investments and expansion or kickstarting of operations in Nigerian oil and gas ecosystem as it is? What is the percentage of that sum that will be domiciled here? That is what Nigeria or his government should consider to be FDI, not just in numbers, not just in figures, not just by banding just the numbers. What percentage of that $5 billion will be domesticated here? The oil and gas, it's not a workforce, high workforce generating business as it is. it is largely process and technology driven. So it's not a huge employer of labor. The oil and gas is not a huge employer of labor. And the most of those products that will come from these new expansions by Total Energies and SNEPCO are going to be exported because they already have existing contracts with their various clients scattered all around the world. So whatever they are producing, a large percentage of it will go in servicing the existing contracts that they have, and where they also raised funds to embark on their expansion. So it's a small percentage of it that will be retained for our own domestic crude consumption, which will go to the refineries, of course.
Right.
It's just a portion of it, not a large.
Right.
Right.
George, I must say thank you because we're pressed for time. Many thanks for coming on and just having this discussion with us. We appreciate you for doing this. George Brown is an oil and gas analyst, just giving us a bit more insight regarding the energy sector and following the presidential media chat with President Bola Tinubu. We switch gears now. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has confirmed the revocation of land titles and deeds at the Maitama 2 area of Abuja. Now, this was during a press briefing with newsmen after the FCTA Executive Council meeting, which held in Abuja. Amadin Uyi reports.
It was the 11th meeting of the Executive Council of the Federal Capital Territory Administration. The meeting had in attendance the Minister of the FCTA, mandate secretaries, and key officials of the FCTA.
Today, at the end of our meeting, the ESCO meeting, under the watchful supervision and control of His Excellency, the Honorable Minister, some critical decisions were taken. Some secretariats presented memos, and these memos were still in furtherance of the determined effort of the Honorable Minister to ensure that the development of the federal capital is not compromised in any way.
Officials in attendance gave details of the meeting.
Today, at the 11th meeting of the FCTA Executive Council, the FCTA presented a memo in respect of development of multi-event sports centers in the city. FCTA ESCO considered and awarded contracts for developing 2 multi-event centers.
So that was what the administration did. However, there were lots of appeal upon seeing the publication of the 19th of December, and the Honorable Minister graciously granted. He considered the plights of so many people. Considered the plights of people, the current economic situation in the country, and felt, okay, let me give these people another chance. And he approved an extension again of 2 weeks, within which everybody must pay the rights of occupancy bills attached to those allocations. The 2 weeks last final grace began on the 20th of December, and we run through to the 3rd of January 2025. So I would think that any well-meaning allottee who really intends to develop his land and who believes in the development of the FCT would, between the 20th of December, when that publication for extension was made, up to the 3rd of January 2025, pay up any outstanding bills.
They add that the meeting will be the last for the year 2024. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Kogi State Governor Usman Ododo has awarded a contract worth 69 million naira for rehabilitation of Government Secondary School Iluke. The project will be executed through the Kogi State Community and Social Development Agency. The school, which was severely damaged by a fire in 2020, is set to undergo its first major renovation since its establishment in 1977. Speaking at the flag-off ceremony, the Kogi State Commissioner for Education, Wemi Johns, described the project as a significant step towards in the state's commitment to improving education. The Commissioner for Information and Communications, Kingsley Fawon, also commended the initiative, saying it is a testament to Ododo's dedication to his promises. Reflecting on his personal connection to the school, he described it as a foundational institution that helped shape his life.
I would say today is indeed historic because this school, GSS Eluke, is a legacy school that Kogi State inherited from the old Kwara State. And this is like the major government presence in the entire Bono district before that development came up. Now, this school had a fire disaster in the year 2020, and we have been back and forth on its renovation. Well, clearly, the executive governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, graciously approved for the total overhaul, rehabilitation and renovation of this school.
The governor has graciously awarded the contract for the rehabilitation of this school through the Community and Social Development Agency. The Kogi State Community and Social Development Agency has been the vehicle that has been helping to transform the rural areas in our state. And it is a vehicle that has been able to take government impact to all the nooks and crannies of the state. It also underscores the determination of the governor to ensure that development spreads across the state. People that were not, people that had never witnessed serious government presence under this administration are witnessing monumental development in those communities. And it goes to show also the commitment of the governor to education of all our citizens in the state.
Following an outbreak of meningitis in Kano State, northern Nigeria in 1996, pharmaceutical giant Pfizer administered its drug, Trovan, to over 200 children in the state. Now, this led to the deaths of at least 11 children and deformities in several others. In this special report, as a prelude to one of News Central's special investigative documentary series, our special correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshal Anthony Onoye, takes a dive into the Pfizer experiment in Kano State, unraveling the current state of the victims and issues surrounding a compensation exercise by Pfizer. His report.
At the wake of a meningitis outbreak in 1996 in Kano State, Pfizer, a pharmaceutical giant offering to help, reportedly treated 200 children, administering Trovan to them, a drug which at the time was yet to get approval from the US FDA. This led to the death of some of the children and deformities in others. 28 years later, I head to Kano State to find out the current condition of the victims of Pfizer's experimental drug. The victims were a bit difficult to locate, but after 2 days of interacting with the locals and asking the right questions, I finally arrived at the residence of late Malam and Malama Salisu, parents to Rukaya.
When I was like 15 years old, I asked my mom what happened to me. That all my brothers and sisters look very normal, but me, I'm looking like that. I am normal before the vaccination. When she take me to the hospital, they say it's damaged my organs, my hormones. They kill my hormones that will help me to grow, that will help my teeth to be strong, that help my body to be normal like other people. They damage that organs. I will not grow again. My bone will be not strong again as normal people. Every year I will break. My leg will be break. That's why I'm not growing. Even my teeth are not strong. Even school, my parents do not put me because if I am playing with my mates, anything mistake, if I fall, I will get injury.
Rukaya is just one of several others still reeling from the effects of Pfizer's experimental drug, Trovan.
My name is Saadatu Tijani. I was born in Bakinrua. I was administered with a medication for meningitis at the time. I have a hospital card and a little toy that was given to me at the time at the hospital. My parents told me that before the Pfizer medication at the hospital, my legs were all right and I could move around without any problem. I could get on top of the bed and come down all by myself. I could hold things firmly while standing and move around with my legs. But since after the Pfizer medications, my legs started getting bad, and I could no longer hold on to things firmly, nor do things that require energy. It was as if my legs were cut off.
A lokacin ba da lafiya aka kai ni asibiti, ina cutar ƙyanda, aka kai ni asibiti, to sai aka yi mana allurar Pfizer.
My parents told me that when I was a little girl, at about 3 years of age, a drug known as Pfizer was administered on me, and then afterward, I couldn't move my legs. It started by shrinking one of my legs, completely drying it up, and then 2 days after being taken to the hospital, the other one also shrunk and dried up.
After a lengthy legal battle that ensued following the Kano meningitis outbreak in 1996, which had the state government, federal government, and parents of victims of the faulty Trovan medical experiment quoted as parties to the sue against Pfizer. In August of 2011, Pfizer had claimed that it had paid the sum of $175,000 each to 4 of the parents who lost their children to the medical experiment, and added that in the days that were to follow, more parents were to get compensation. It further added that the Kano state government was paid. Now, the big question for me was, did these parents actually get the sum of $175,000 each, which at the time Pfizer made the announcement amounted to 64 million naira each? And Kano State, why did it have to get an equivalent of 27 billion naira? These questions seem to be seeking answers, which of course I hope to find.
I'm the father of Hadiza Dambuzu, who is a victim of Pfizer trial carried out in 1996 by the Pfizer pharmaceutical company. So she died. After that, Pfizer promised to give us compensation. Each victim will be given $175 US. Very unfortunate, we were not given $175 US. We were given only $7,000 US, which is equivalent to 2.4 naira Nigerian currency. So we need help. We need assistance from all angles to collect the remaining balance.
I was paid 2 million naira and a few fractions, not up to 40,000 naira after changing it. I think it was around 2,020,000. They even called other victims and myself in to conduct DNA tests on us. I was part of it and my saliva was taken.
These victims have continued to cry foul at the injustice meted out on them. Though Pfizer maintains the children died from meningitis, not the trial drug, and describes its trial largely as a humanitarian effort aimed at saving lives during a 1996 epidemic, investigations have revealed that Pfizer was indeed responsible for the deaths and guilty of conducting human trials without informed consent. While those who lost their children to the experimental drug will continue to mourn their losses, knowing that no form of compensation can bring their children back, others may have to live the rest of their lives tending to their children with permanent deformities. In the coming days, I hope to dig deeper in the issues around the Trovan disaster in Kano State, the lives of the victims, and allegations of improprieties surrounding the compensation. Marshal Anthony Onoye for News Central.
Mozambique's opposition leader, Venancio Molane, says the country's top court, is legalizing fraud after it confirmed on Monday the ruling party's victory in a disputed October vote. According to the proclamation by Mozambique's Constitutional Council, Venancio of the opposition secured 24.919%. Ofuso Mahmude received 6.62%, and Lutaro Simungo received 4.02%. Since the results were announced, protesters have turned violent, with buildings set ablaze and roads blocked. The unrest stems from allegations of electoral fraud, which have sparked weeks of demonstrations. Security forces have reportedly killed dozens of protesters during these clashes.
Este é um momento sério da nossa vida. Ou a gente organiza o nosso país agora, ou então nada feito. Esta oportunidade única que os moçambicanos têm. Mas, meus amigos, direito à resistência é o direito que assiste a todos os moçambicanos. Artigo 80 da Constituição da República. Porque eles dizem que é legalidade. Querem agir na legalidade. Agir na legalidade matando o povo. Usando as forças de defesa e segurança para assassinar o povo. É legalidade.
5 players have been recalled to the Super Eagles B camp ahead of the crucial 2024 CHAN playoff return leg against Ghana. The players include striker Samuel Ayorinde, Shooting Stars, and Sunday Miguel Abia Warriors, as well as midfielder Kazim Ogunleye, Enugu Rangers, Timothy Vincent of Plateau United, and Badmos Badamosi of Kwara United. These players were in the Ikene training camp but did not make the final court for the trip to Ghana. The team are now in Uyo and will have their first training this evening. They welcomed the Black Galaxies of Ghana on Saturday after top teams played out a scoreless draw in Accra on Sunday. The winner over both legs will qualify for the 2024 CHAN tournament in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, set for February of 2025. And on to the action from the Elicris Table Tennis Cup going on at the Molade Okoya Thomas Hall in Surulere. Hope Uduaka clinched the women's single title, defeating Sukirat Ayelagbagon, which 4-2 in a thrilling final. In the men's category, there was a major shock in one of the semi-finals after Daniel Ford Elite Champions winner Abdubasat Abdulfatai was thrashed 3 sets by nothing by Muis Adegoke from Lagos. In the final, Adegoke raced to a 2-0 lead against Matthew Kuti, only to lose by 4-2. Now, Kuti had lost the final of the Daniel Ford Elite Championships on Saturday and was elated to win a title so soon afterwards. The Oklahoma City Thunder and guard, that's Alex Caruso, has agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth $81 million, securing his services until 2029. Now, under the deal, Caruso will earn $18 million in 2025, $19.55 million in 2026, and $20.9 million in 2027, and finally $22.4 million in 2028. A 2-time All-Defense Team selection, Caruso began his NBA career with the Los Angeles Lakers in 2017, where he played a key role in their 2020 championship run. The 8-year veteran later spent 3 seasons with the Chicago Bulls before joining the Thunder this year. Known for his defensive prowess and hustle, Caruso has established himself as one of the league's premier perimeter defenders. Nice. Hey, how's on? Well, that's all we can take at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Court has remanded Ooni's ex-queen, Oriyomi, and school principal over deadly Ibadan stampede. Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee has dismissed request by Afe Babalola's law firm to revoke the practicing license of human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi over allegation of defamation. And we also told you that Mozambique's opposition has accused top court of legalizing fraud for confirming election results. Now remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422. You can find us on Star Times channel 274. We're also on Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.